Susie Owens, Voodoo, Draculino. You're watching COMX-TV.
Spider-Man, Superman, they're all coming right to you. Venom, Bud, Archie too, they will all be here for you on COMX-TV. COMX-TV. Fantasy and enemy, what's it gonna be now? Alternative and mainstream too, here every week for you on COMX-TV. COMX-TV.
Hi and welcome to COMX-TV, your weekly guide to the wacky world of comic books. My name is Michael Rizzo.
And I'm Steve Prisvilla. And each and every week, me and Mike sit here and we try and improve your vast knowledge of comic books with reviews, previews, interviews, and everything out there in the comic book world.
First of all, I'd like to say that, as you can see, we've got a new set. It's coming into fruition here, and we're sorry that you've had to see some of this poopy-looking stuff. But once it's done, this is going to be the best set you've ever seen here on COMX-TV. We got a lot of changes coming up. It's going to be great. Stay with us. We've got some great stuff over the coming weeks, including a lot of interviews that I got from Wizard Chicago Com. Wizard was, the show itself was pretty good. I mean, I walked around and I couldn't tell. There was something different from last year, and I wasn't sure what it was. Somebody stated that they thought that it was in a bigger, that they were taking more area up. One thing that was different is they had separate entrances before for like the small press and the artist alley and for the mainstream and for the dealers. Now it was all in one big area you walk through, and it was still separate, but
Everything was together.
yeah, they were all in one big room. And I know that there was people complaining about pricing and things like that, some of the dealers. But apparently the show went over pretty good. I know a lot of the comments I read on the internet were not good. There was a lot of people that complained about it and people that won't go next year. I know that there was people that were scheduled.
Be there.
Pardon me?
They'll be there.
Well, there was people that were scheduled to be there that didn't show up, including the big one. Marvel was not there. They
boycotted the show?
They didn't. I don't know what it was. They didn't even have a booth. They claimed that they didn't want to. They wanted to just do San Diego. Now, I mean, they didn't. Last year they had they had an 8-foot table, which is pretty bad for the biggest company in the world. I mean, the biggest comic book company. All they had was an 8-foot table. This year they had nothing. DC was the big one. So was the booth that had Jeff Smith and Charles Vess and Linda Medley, I think her name is. That booth was huge. It looked almost as big as the DC booth.
Marvel not showing up.
No, it was very surprising. And
that's a
we got the results of the Wizard Fan Awards, which we'll give you next week, and Marvel was the big winner.
That's one way to really hurt yourself. You know, actually hurting the public is not showing up at a show like this.
Yes, it's bad.
And if anybody knows what fruition means, please write it in and let me know. Mike's using big words again.
So let's kick off our show today with, we've got some great stuff, including some reviews of comic books. We've got our dual review of Nowhere.
Previews of Inferno.
And some great comic book news, including some stuff about Marvel. So let's start with Steve's first comic book review.
Yeah, we're going to start with me today. Oh yeah, we start every week with me, but hey, that's good. This week, I'm going with Inferno, #1. Yes, this is the preview book. $2.95 from DC Comics. Supposed to be released August 20th, so it should be coming around very soon out on the market. It's a black and white advanced copy. Writer is Stuart Immonen. He also does the artwork. And inker is Wade von Graubadger. Yes, he's
good.
Very German.
Graubadger, maybe?
Graubadger. This book deals with, in the future, superheroes, JLA, and superheroes are outlawed. You're not allowed to show your superhero powers. And Inferno, who is a new Justice League of America girl who leaves because Lex Luthor he takes over the JLA. This is like a futuristic story. She leaves and ends up in this time warp and ends up going into the future where, like I said, superheroes are illegal. And she saves this guy because she's in this mall and a terrorist plants a bomb. The bomb blows up and she saves this guy from falling and dying. And he's like, you better hurry up and get out of here because superheroes are illegal and nobody likes them. And the police come and arrest the guy that did the bombing. And they're like, go home. We don't need you. Our world is better without you and this and that and everything. This is something that you see in quite a few books. The writing in this one, like I said, this has been done before, going into the future and this and that, and superheroes aren't allowed. You got to hide what you are. The artwork in this one, it's basic. It's basic DC. I mean, I've seen 10 times better work in Acclaim and other companies, some of the small press companies. This is a basic DC. Collectability, I would have to say no. Just because something's a #1, I would not give it a top rating that, oh, you got to run out and get it because it's going to be collectible. I'd have to disagree. Rating on this one, I got to give this one a not hot, thumbs down, no way, take a hike. I really didn't like it. This was too basic. Like I said, you want to read a good girl book? Go get Supergirl. She's doing really good. That is my first review. I say, nope, nope, no, I don't like it. Take a hike. And next we got coming up the news.
Really?
Really.
Well,
really.
The battle for Marvel Entertainment has finally finished. The board of directors of Marvel Holdings, Inc. have voted their majority ownership interest in the company to elect us as the new board of directors for Marvel. Not specifically us. Damn. This decision was based upon our desire to restore Marvel to financial prosperity as quickly as possible and get back to the basics of what has made us successful in the past. Said the new board of directors for Marvel in an employee letter that was sent out on Tuesday, June 23rd. For the company. Part of this is also the auction off of the company, a plan which benefits neither Marvel's employees nor its shareholders. Marvel has agreed with Toy Biz. At this point, they have merged together, and there's a lot of stuff going on. The bondholders ended up winning this battle.
Warren Ellis stated that Ariel Olivetti will become the penciler for the series Satana, which starts in October, which should be very interesting. Ellis also hinted on some of his upcoming projects, which include the Gen 13 Bootleg Annual, Tales of the Witchblade #3 and #4, Vampirella vs. She, and of course, She vs. Vampirella. So stay tuned. More Comics TV news is later in the show, but next we have a very, very interesting review from Michael.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate that introduction.
You're very welcome, my friend.
Forbidden Knowledge is by Mark Wheatley. It's from Mark's Giant Size Economy Comics. It's for 48 pages, $3.50. This is one shot from, it's part of the Radical Dreamer series. In this issue, we have Val running scared from George Foutran. She ends up falling in a pit. She meets this guy, Savage. Well, he's called Savage. I don't know if that's his name or not, but that's the only place I could follow. Black and white book, and basically, he uses a lot of inks, and it looks like he uses brushes because it's a lot of washed black and whites. It's nice looking. His art is good. And basically what it is this Savage is part of he lives out in this forest and everything. He owns this whole area. He's got a so-called son who's named Jack, and Jack is this big ape. What happens is Val falls through a weak part in his ceiling.
Sounds like Tarzan.
Which is kind of, yes, kind of. And she ends up falling into this library. Next thing you know, Jack and Savage are fighting. He's beating up this big monkey and stuff, and he sees Val, and he thinks that that's his long-lost love, who had been sealed in this capsule in this other room. And she goes, no, it's not me. Go open the door. You know, that's not me in there. He's like, no. So anyhow, the story's not too bad. You know, it's an okay story. If you like it, if you've ever read any of this Radical Dreamer stuff by Mark Wheatley, it's pretty good. Basically, the Radical Dreamer stuff is about this whole DreamNet thing where you can hook up and you can go into your dreams, and they were using, like the government or whoever was in charge was using it to their advantage, so it wasn't really that good. But the book story concept isn't too bad. Personally, I can take it or leave it. You know, if I'm going to read this, I read this because I've had it for a while. This isn't a brand new book, but it's pretty good. I would say Forbidden Knowledge, if you're an adult and you've got an open sense to read something different, this is a good book to check out. Otherwise, if you're into superhero comics, you're never going to like a story like this. It has nothing to do with superheroes or anything that's remotely related. So, that is my review for now. Now, we're going to take you to one of our most famous parts of the show,
which is do a
what?
review book. But before we do review, here's a question to keep you kids occupied until the end of the show. I'll give you the answer at the end of the show. On the cartoon George of the Jungle, which the movie is being released, what was George's gorilla's friend's name? Sit there and think about that. Before we get to our real interesting segment, do a review. At the end of the show, I'll let you know the answer. See how good you are. This week on Do Review, we have
Nowhere, #2 by Debbie Dressler. It's from Drawn and Quarterly. It's $3.75. Very, very pricey book.
Uh-huh.
Now this is something, before we get into that real quick, there's a guy that I met down in over in Chicago who had a good point, and now there's some questioning going on the internet. Like, why are comics so expensive? Why do we pay $2.95 for an independent black and white comic when we can go and spend $2.50 on a full-color superhero comic?
Ooh, can I answer that?
Okay, Steve.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Mike, I would have to say over the last 4 years, me and Michael basically does the independents and I do the mainstream. There are a lot of good independent issues out there. A lot of times the independent stories are 10 times better than the mainstream ones. The artwork is better. I mean, it keeps your interest up, and people don't know about those. Also, the reason they're a little more pricey, they have shorter runs than these mainstream books. These mainstream books go for 500,000, 1 million runs compared to maybe 5,000 on the independents.
Okay.
And
those are true statements, but...
Yes, they are.
Those are true statements, but if you start a business, there's no way that you plan on being profitable your first year.
No.
In fact, most businesses don't plan on being, they don't work for profitability for 2 or 3 years.
Let's see, how many years have we been doing the show?
That's different. So what these people, though, are doing is they think that they're going to put out their first book and they're going to make a profit.
$1 million,
Well,
yeah.
they're going to make a profit, and they shouldn't. This guy, which I'll be reviewing his book in a few weeks, he's charging $1.95 for a full-color, glossy book.
When was the last time you've seen a $1.95 book?
Because he said, he goes,
it's been 7, 8 years.
He goes, there's no reason why you should be paying that much. Now, on to our do review, $3.75. This is a 2-color book.
3-color.
Yeah, I guess it is. There's brown, green, and white. Well, actually, 22.
White, yeah, white's the
So it's brown and green. It's a 2-color book. $3.75 is very expensive. I mean,
there's more color in the front page, in the back page, than there is in the whole book.
I mean, okay, let's get to the story. What did you think of Nowhere? This is called, this is part 2. It's called Summer of Love.
This deals with a kid that likes this girl, and he's in a band which is going nowhere, basically. And for some reason, this forest has something to do with this book. What, I have not figured out yet.
Yeah.
But constantly going through, and magical things are happening. And she gets lost, and she ends up at this house and watching this band play. And this kid in the band likes this little girl, and this girl really likes it. It's weird, but this book, like the title, is going nowhere. I can't understand somebody that pay more than $1 for this book, because it really has no story when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I have to say that, you know, her first issue was pretty good, and Debbie Dressler, I believe, also did that Daddy's Girl, and that
Daddy's Girl was really good.
Excellent art.
Yes, that was a very good one-shot book. But this
Book, that was the whole thing.
yes, it was a book. There's so many of these kind of story Melrose Place kind of things
also
going
the
on.
artwork looks just like, what's that Matt, what's his name, Mike, you reviewed him?
Peep Show?
Yeah. It's sort of got his style and look to it, with the faces, and I was very disappointed. I mean, I expected more of the book. I mean, you start reading it, and it just fizzled out 3 or 4 pages in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the story is mediocre. I'd have to say at $3.75, that's really
$3.75, there better
stretching
be
it.
a lot in there for me to really keep my interest
That's
up.
really stretching it on trying to get somebody to want to go out and buy a book. Two-color, I mean, yes, that's her style and it's interesting. The story itself is mediocre. I mean, basically that's all it is. There's not much to it. And
No, not at all.
I have to say that I'd have to pass on Nowhere.
Yes, I would pass too. Sort of a disappointing book. Definitely think twice about picking this one up.
Yeah, so overall, dual review this week, Nowhere by Debbie Dressler, #2. We both give it a thumbs down, a no way, sorry Jose, and
Don't even
Pascal,
bother
etc.
buying it.
Next, we've got on the COMX-TV television show, we've got something coming up. We have a little bit more, did we have some more news? Yes, we've got some more news coming up still. We've got some more comic book reviews, and we'll have a little bit more to say at the end of today's show about Chicago and about some other things coming up in the coming weeks. Next, here's Steve with another comic book review.
It's me again. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Michael. Next this week, I have Eternal Warrior, September, $3.95 from Acclaim Comics. Digital Alchemy. Writer is Art Holcomb, artist is Dale Eagleham, and the inker is John Floyd. This book deals with there is a time-traveling case, and Eternal Warrior has to recover this time-traveling case because an evil scientist has picked it up, and he's traveling through time basically and screwing everything up. The Eternal Warrior literally has to blow up his archives, and he takes everybody on one of the Viking arcs, which you know, if anybody reads it, he had Vikings living down there that he kept alive and made them basically reproduce and everything. He had them on their Viking arc, you might say, and took them out into the world because slowly this man is destroying the world with this time-traveling case. Well, it comes out where, of course, the Eternal Warrior, you can sort of figure out what's going on in this book early and how it's going to end. I was very disappointed in that because basically they blew their whole shot in the first 5 or 6 pages on what's going on and how it's going to end and who the bad guy was. I like reading a book and not realizing who the bad guy is till the last couple pages. The writing in this one was a little bit disappointing. I was disappointed. I like Eternal Warrior. It's one of my favorite series, but I'm very disappointed in this one. It didn't lead me on, like I said. The artwork in this one is fabulous. Acclaim, I mean, they got some fabulous artwork in some of their books, and this one was definitely one of them. I really, really enjoyed it. Collectability, I'd have to say no. This is just a basic book. Anybody can pick it up if they like it, pick it up. If they don't, well, no. Rating on this one, though, because I like Galad and the Eternal Family, I'd have to go good on my account because I enjoy it. It's up to you. If you'd like a book like this, you got to constantly think, hey, do I like it, do I not? Pick it up and look at it, check it out. If you like it, buy it. If you don't, put it back down, spend it on something else you like. It's my second review. And next we've got something really, really interesting. Another one of Mike's reviews.
Before I go into that, though, I'd like to mention that Acclaim had some stuff going on at the Chicago show I wasn't able to get to, but I caught up on it, and they're not doing too well. Apparently,
some of their series are being canceled.
Yes, apparently Ninjak is gone after issue number 12, and everything, I think the only thing that's really doing well for them are the Classics Illustrated and maybe some of the Disney stuff that they're doing.
Well, I thought Turok was doing very well. Everybody I talked to really enjoyed the new Turok.
Well, they're definitely not in the top 10, that's for sure. But there's a lot of books that aren't. Unless you're Marvel and Image, you're not in the top 10. Next I have Song of the Sirens #1. This is book 1. It's an anthology for $2.95 from Millennium Comics. Well, $2.95, not too bad. There's no ads. It's all comic book. It's interesting. We have several stories in here, including the Spinneret, which is by Janet Hetherington and Ron Sutton. She's the one who does the Eternal Romance, that vampire comic. And the art in this book is pretty good. They've got a story called Desiree. There's one called Lone Survivor and one called Dakota. The art in Desiree is excellent. Very good art. Story, you know, it's your typical kind of action flick kind of sci-fi thing. Spinneret is a vampire who's out to she found her love, I guess, and her love happens to be this guy, and I
Well,
don't
I
know.
hope
it's,
so.
it's okay. Some of the Sirens, $2.95. It's pretty big, but I don't know. Take a look for it. If you can find it in your store, take a look at it. You probably won't find it in your store, so don't worry about it. Next on that vampire thing, we've got Vampirella versus Hemorrhage number 2, Vampirella versus Hemorrhage number 3. These came out May and June. They're out. You should have them in your store. Vampy gets caught. She breaks loose. Hemorrhage is on the loose. He ends up working with some bad guy. And actually in issue number 3, there's no text in the preview copy I'd gotten, so I don't really know what happens, but it looks like Hemorrhage ends up getting caught again, and I'm sick of the vampire
Again.
stuff. I'm sick of the Vampirella stuff. So anyhow, pass on that too.
One thing that I got to comment on the Vampirella, she's been fighting Hemorrhage for an awful long time, destroying him. In the next issue, he's back.
Yeah.
They're starting to thrive on Hemorrhage, coming back and coming back and coming back. This is like the 3rd or 4th series that he's been back. I mean, he's a great character, but come on, the man gets killed every series. Let him die in peace or have his own series. This is getting ridiculous.
Well, it's Vampirella versus Hemorrhage. He's
Well,
pretty much got his
what
own series.
Secretly love each other.
I
sure
bet,
they
well,
do.
they did. They had a love affair already, but
Anyhow.
now
You could have little hemorrhaging Vampirella.
Ah, there we go. Let's bring you some more comic book news to keep you up on this industry, this crazy comic book industry.
yes. Neil Gaiman gave comments on Prodigy, online computer service, for upcoming projects and other plans that have recently been going on. Gaiman told fans that he had still not received any compensation for the use of the concepts he created for Todd McFarlane's Spawn, including Angela, who has appeared on action figures and on the HBO animated program. But McFarlane, who owns 2/3 of the rights of the Miracle Man character, has approached Neil about giving him those rights as compensation, but whether he's going to accept it or not, there is no word on that. So stay tuned, maybe we can find out.
And as always, the Comics TV news is brought to you in association with the Comic Club Electronic Magazine. Next, we've got Steve bringing you another exciting comic book review.
Yes, this one, I gotta admit, I reviewed the first issue. I was very, very disappointed. Waited a couple issues. Quantum and Woody, number 4, in September. $2.50 from Acclaim Comics. Writer is Priest, artist is Bright, and inker is Greg Adams. This book throws shots at every comic book company in the world. At the beginning, they got Woody and Quantum sitting there, and they're going through the list of words you can say in a comic book. And nobody cares that you use those. Then they're taking shots at the words you can't. The F word, the S word, the B word, and the immortal N word, which Quantum, if anybody reads, Quantum is the immortal N word. And Woody is taking shots at him through this whole book. And Woody takes it says the N word, he X's it out with a red pen and writes noogie underneath, is this the word? And he basically is making a joke out of the whole thing. Well, Quantum finally gets fed up, and Quantum's sitting there sleeping in front of his computer, and he has this dream that Woody's over there playing his guitar, annoying the living heck out of him, and they're allowed to print it. And Quantum goes upstairs and literally shoots him and kills him. And he says, I'm totally fed up and everything. And along comes this next bad guy, which they have to fight, and it goes into another story. Actually, and at the end it says noogie in a cape instead of the other N word, and noogie in a cape. Because on each page, they normally have captions on the top of a tiny itty-bitty story, which might be 4 or 5 pages long only. It's interesting the way they did this. The writing in this one wasn't bad. I actually enjoyed the book. It kept my interest up right from beginning to end. The artwork was good. I really liked the artwork in Quantum and Woody, because they also show a 1966 Mustang convertible I'm in love with. But collectability, I'd have to say no again. This is just a common. But on a rating on this one, I'd give this one a good. I really enjoyed this one. If you can pick this one up, pick this one up. You'll get a kick out of it. It is definitely a funny book. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
He had fun just looking to see what kind of dirty word they were going to put.
I was looking just what kind of dirty word they had, and ooh, bestole my heart.
Really?
Yes. And real quick, I have another one. I have the second part to Batman Aliens from Dark Horse Comics, $4.95. Writers Ron Mars and Bernie Wrightson. This is the second part of the series where Batman, they did a crossover. Batman finally connected up with aliens. And, of course, Batman beats the aliens, da-da-da-da-da. The alien egg comes up, hatches, gets into an alligator, so the new alien looks like an alligator. He ends up fighting them, beating them. End of story. This one was pretty good. I had to enjoy the crossover. Pick it up. You'll enjoy it if you like Batman or the Alien series. And that's it on my reviews today.
His
That was
duel.
Steve's 30 seconds.
That was my 30-second superhero review.
All the time we have for regular Comics TV show this week. We've got a couple things. First off, I don't remember his last name. His name is Peter. Worked with him at BCTV, and I worked on some...
Wasn't it? Maxwell?
Peter Maxwell. It may have been Peter Maxwell. And unfortunately, while I was on vacation, he was murdered in his home. And I'd just like to pass along my condolences there because I worked with him a number of times with some productions, and it's just too bad that that kind of stuff has to happen, whether it's here in Buffalo or anywhere.
Welcome to the real world.
And it's just too bad, and it bothers you when it comes close enough that you know somebody like that. That bothers you.
Yeah.
In addition, one of my buddies, my friend that I've known for about 5 years, Toby, passed away last week, and I'd just like to say that I miss you, Toby, and we'll see you again sometime. But on to the good stuff with Comics TV. Comics TV brings you a lot of good stuff. We've got some exclusive stuff from the upcoming Spawn movie, which we're going to bring you next week. That's right. I don't know how good the video is. I haven't checked it out yet, but we've got some previews. We've got some special effects. We've got
interviews.
We've got no interviews from that.
No, they did a panel.
There was a panel. I didn't stay for the whole thing with I forgot what his name is, Michael J. something or
For the movie, wasn't it?
no. The producer was there, and also Michael J. Thomas or whatever his name is.
If anybody's seen the advertisements, this movie looks great.
I have to
can't wait
say
till it
that.
comes.
We saw extended trailers and it looks pretty good.
Yeah,
we saw some stuff that wasn't in any of the trailers yet, and this looks like a very impressive movie. It's only PG-13.
You got some cool music with it.
And I mean, you got to look at it this way. The cartoon that's on HBO at night is rated R, and this movie's being rated PG. So,
Yeah,
and it's live action.
PG-13.
PG-13, so you got to be at least 13 to see it.
Yeah, but that's good, and as always, you can write to us here at Comics TV, especially if you'd like to join our Comics TV staff here.
We're looking for you.
That's right, male, female, old, young. You know something about comics, you don't know something about comics.
You want to learn something about
That's
comics.
right, you can be...
You want to be on TV.
You want to be on TV, you want to be behind the cameras, we've got openings for you. So, write to us here at Comics TV, P.O. Box 220, Buffalo, New York, 14225, or email us at comicstv@localnet.com.
Or if you even see us out on the street, hey, come up to us and say, hey, I want to be on your show.
That's right. Hey, say, hey, I'm one of your 5 viewers.
6.
Hey, say hi to the viewer at Russell's
Yes, and
Pastry.
the guy.
A viewer from Russ's Pastry, hi.
How you doing? Good to see you. I'm glad you watched the show. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you always enjoy it. And my name is Mike Rizzo.
And I'm Steve Brazil. And every week that we say the same thing, so we're going to say it again. When you watch our comic book show and you see those books that you want to buy, when you walk into that comic shop, tell them you've seen it on Comics TV. Bye.
I think that's good to know.
Yes. Serious, you know these.